We know that Zoom fatigue is real, so we decided for our first gathering that we wanted all of you to kind of like hang out with us, get to know us, because we are human beings too. I know we are your professors and you see us online, but we also know that this is a time to get to know us in a way that you never thought you would. So thank you. Thank you for the faculty who are not going to be doing their story with us, and that's Dr. Chen from engineering. We've got Dr. Ma from econ, yay. Dr. Amanda Peterson is in languages and lit. We also have Professor Lisa Smith, who may or may not be here. So there are 3 things that you should know. Number 1, that these are our stories, that after the speaker speaks, we're gonna poll, and then you're gonna get a question, and we're gonna follow it up with a random question based on what you heard and based on what we think would be kind of exciting for you to listen to, kind of like, what was their craziest college experience? So based on your vote, we are going to, or I am going to ask them questions, right? So, and if you haven't already, can you please change your name for your first and last name? So if you're hanging out with your parents and you got your parents' names, make sure that your name is associated with that, okay? Any questions or comments before we start kicking this off? So, yes, no, great. Okay, so right now we've got 5 speakers lined up to talk about their story and how we became cultivators, how we really actually do believe that cultivating your awareness is really about critical thinking and about becoming more mindful. So the 5 that we have lined up are Dr. Malakian, Dr. Carmona, Dr. McGordy, Dr. Mayer, and Dr. Yin. And there is no random order that I chose it in. So I'm just gonna go with Dr. Ryan McCordy. Now let me introduce him. Dr. Ryan McCordy is one of the 2019 Cottrell Scholars for his work entitled Optical Microscopy of Sheared Phase Separating Soft Matter Systems. Wow. Okay, well, he got his BS from UMass in Amherst, his PhD from Harvard, and actually was a postdoc fellow at UCSF. Woo-hoo. He's been at USD since 2015, and in this Cultivate room, he teaches the Intro to Mechanics. So if you're his student, you can give him a shout out.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so Dr. McCordy, we're very excited. So take it away.
All right. Well, thanks. Yeah. So I wasn't really sure what to talk about, but I thought I'd tell you about one of the experiences that kind of helped bring me to USD. Really specifically, the first college course I ever taught, which is kind of how I figured that I'd like to teach college. So, you know, when I graduated college with a bachelor's degree in physics, I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I was interested in learning more science, so I decided to go to grad school. That was 6 years. After I got my PhD in physics, I still didn't really know what I wanted to do. I thought about finding a job teaching at a university, but honestly, I didn't think I knew enough physics. And I don't think that's too uncommon that, you know, after you get your PhD in something, you realize how little you know, right? And so I wasn't sure. After I graduated, I moved to San Francisco, mainly because my partner at the time had moved there a couple months before. So I was in San Francisco. I got a job working as a researcher in a biology lab. And I searched for opportunities to teach on the side, just mainly to see if I would enjoy it. And so I volunteered to teach a college biology course at San Quentin State Prison. So inmates there can take college courses through a small college in the Bay Area, and they get to earn their associate's degree. So I taught college biology with lab. So it met 3 times a week. But there were a couple other volunteers who helped. So we divided up the lectures, but I was in charge of the labs. And some of the most memorable parts of that class were bringing in the lab materials into the prison. You know, we brought a human heart, a lung, various brains. We did an eyeball dissection lab. So I brought like a bag of eyeballs into the prison and they dissected them. They had to use plastic knives. One of the inmates volunteered to grab a razor blade for us, but we said no. We did a sea urchin fertilization lab, which was really amazing. And I was always really nervous to bring those things into the prison because the guards inspect everything very carefully. And when you're bringing in the organs, I mean, they're floating in buckets of alcohol, and I was sure they wouldn't let us bring that in, but they did every time. So it was kind of amazing. And we did another activity where you may have done this in your high school biology lab, perhaps. But we give students a tab of paper which has a certain chemical on it, and you can determine whether you have the gene to taste this bitter chemical or not. And I was pretty sure the guards were not going to let us bring in tabs of paper that had been soaked in a chemical for the inmates to ingest. But they actually had no problem with that. So anyways, it was a lot of fun. It was challenging, but I really enjoyed it. And my time teaching there really, helped me decide to find a career teaching. It was helpful to see that I didn't have to feel like an expert in something, and I was certainly not an expert in biology, but I could still teach it. I just had to stay a little bit ahead of the students and be able to come up with like fun activities for them to do. So yeah, I realized that I really enjoyed that. And that's my story.
Okay, that is crazy local. Feedback for Dr. McCourty? I have a quick question before we ask a poll question. What is the one thing you learned in prison that helped you at USD? Like, do you carry a shank with you now?
The students there were so well behaved that I don't even know that I really learned much. Yeah, they do though ask questions that are not related at all to the course. So I think I learned how to like direct questions back to something relevant.
Great, thank you. Okay, I'm gonna launch this poll, and if you wanna, on the chat, give a shout out to Dr. McCourty with the story, that would be wonderful. What did you think about his little short story about getting to USD? And in this poll, I'm asking you, I'm launching it right now. None of you are taking it. What question would you want me to ask Dr. McCourty right now? Okay, I'll give you a couple of seconds to do this. It's like gambling, okay? And I'm going to stop it in 5, 61, 62, 4, 3, dose. I think we're good. Okay, and the question I have to ask you is, what is your craziest story, aside from prison, working there, from college? You went to Amherst and Harvard, so what was your craziest story?
Yeah, I don't know that there's too many I should say. So I have one that's not too crazy. Well, when I was in college, and maybe they still have them now, but in the front of all the dorm buildings and throughout campus too, there'd be like intercom boxes, little call boxes. Right? So if you went to the dorm or some dorm building, you would just call the number of your friend and they would come down and let you in. And this is going to make me sound like a crazy hacker, but things were different back when I was in college, right? Like the internet, just security didn't exist as much as it does now. So I was able to find online or just like download from another computer on campus the list of all those phone numbers for those intercom boxes. So I could actually call those boxes, which I didn't even realize you could do, but you could get those boxes to ring. And so my friends and I think we spent a couple weeks had a lot of fun just calling random boxes on campus.
Thank you. That is terrific. I'm giving you like some clapping. Yay! Nicely done.
Thanks.
Okay, second up bat is Dr. Victor Carmona. He is our assistant professor of theology and religious studies. And what you probably don't know, he also teaches the class in spirituality and struggle. Anybody in here?
Woohoo!
Yay! Okay. He got his Bachelor of Science from Georgetown, a PhD from Notre Dame, okay? And he's taught in Mexico and in San Antonio as well. He's been at USD for 2017, and he literally lives, breathes, works, is part of the Catholic ideology. tradition, identity, and we're really happy to have him. So Dr. Carmona.
Hi, thank you. Hi, everyone. So my story begins so in college, I went so I wanted to be a diplomat when I went to the School of Foreign Service. And things started to change when I was walking on my way to class and I had just transferred in. And as I'm walking, I come across this giant, thin, long boat with oars next to it. And there was some students next to it. And I'm like, hey, what is this? And I'm like, what's this boat? And they're like, no, this is not a boat. It's a shell. This shell is for crew. It's for rowing. And growing up in the desert, I had no idea what he was talking about. And I'm like, I've always been told that I'm not really coordinated. I'm not good in, at anything sports related. I'm going to give this a shot, see what happens. Long story short, it was awesome. It was an awesome experience. I found out that I was actually pretty good at rowing. They even had me, I had the ability to row on both sides of the shell, so I became pretty useful for the team. But frankly, at the end of the day, it was just awesome getting to know my teammates and getting to know people from across the college that I would have never otherwise met. So I did that. Then about halfway through my time in college, I came across this class that I was curious about because I thought that the name was an oxymoron. The title of the class was Catholic Imagination. And it was this class with this professor who I have heard many good things about. So when he asked us, why are you taking this class? I was pretty honest with him. I'm like, because I think this class is an oxymoron. You can't be Catholic and have an imagination, because being Catholic is all about the rules. So the professor was like, oh, Mr. Carmona, I'm going to have fun with you. So long story short, it was one of the best classes I took at Georgetown, because I learned that Christianity was frankly far more interesting and complicated than I had ever imagined. And then my final year at Georgetown, I had been working on on a thesis on migration, and I came across Catholic social teaching. So long story short, the professor was like, why don't you give this a shot? And I gave it a shot, and I ended up getting hired after college by the Mexican Catholic Conference of Bishops because of that thesis that I wrote in college, because they argued that the bishops were screwing up and that they had to do a better job at helping migrants and refugees in Mexico. So they basically said, okay, if this is the problem that you're seeing and you have the guts to give it a shot to try and help solve it, give it a shot. And I gave it a shot. I would teach at nights for 6 years because I enjoyed teaching. And next thing I know, I'm giving graduate school a shot. And next thing I know, I'm giving USD a shot. And it's awesome. So give it a shot. That's it. My story.
Okay, by the way, I have a follow-up question and then the poll question. And then at the end, we're going to have questions for the whole group because, this is awesome. So you could have been in foreign service. Like you right now could have been a diplomat in like Bulgaria.
Yeah.
No.
That's what I
wanted that one
to do.
Class.
Yeah, I mean, that one class was, started me considering this other direction. And I just gave it a shot. And
wow.
I was surprised by how much fun it was.
Wow.
So
that's great. So we got a guy who worked in prison. Now we got a guy who walked by a boat in a shell. Okay, we're doing another poll right now. What question do you want me to follow up with Dr. Carmona? Or if you have a random one, you can ask him right now too. Ooh, we're halfway there. I figured we go from science to theology, back to science, and then back to the arts, and then back to science. So it's nice. A crapshoot, right? Dr. May or Dr. Yin, I'm gonna end the polling. Come on, it's almost tied. I need a couple more to untie the vote. Right? untie our vote. Here we go. Okay, I'm gonna thank you for you two people untying the vote. All right. Crazy, another one. People want to hear crazy stories from college, or you could choose biggest regret.
Oh my God. It's like a Mexican telenovela here.
Sí, señor.
So, oh my gosh, craziest. Oh my gosh. Yeah, not the one that popped into mind. I can't. I'm like Dr. McCordy. I can't.
No, you got it. You know what? These are college students. They think we don't even have a college, that
Oh
we've
my
just
God.
lived in a building
Let's.
and never left it. All we do is teach and go home.
No, yeah. Oh my gosh. No. I gotta go for. Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, the experience that popped into my mind. I can't share. But it was basically, yeah, just part of being in crew team. But I think so. I'm gonna go for my biggest regret. So my biggest regret was that I actually quit crew a year and a half into college, because I was a transfer, so I only had 3 years at Georgetown. So second, third, and fourth year. And I wanted to be a really good, successful student because I wanted to get into the foreign service. And I quit crew after a year and a half because my coach told me that some of my fellow crew members saw me as Rudy. Have you all seen the Notre Dame football game? Yeah. So, so I took myself so seriously as a young man that I felt like, this is wrong. I want to be the best rower that Georgetown University has ever seen. When in fact, what my team needed was Rudy, and and I should have stuck it out because my crewmates were awesome, and rowing was beautiful. And rowing after that experience, it's hard finding crews and time to do it. So my biggest regret there was that I quit or left the team with a year and a half to go in college. Going back, I think I would have liked to, just stayed on.
Wow. Gracias.
Yeah,
Thank you for that.
you're
Yay.
welcome.
Reactions, feedback. I'll give you like, woo,
Woo woo.
woohoo. Thank you. Two awesome stories. Thank you. Okay, I think we're going back to sciences. Dr. Mayer, we're going to end with you because there's a reason. Okay, I have a strategic reason. So we're going to go with Dr. John Yin from Environmental and Ocean Sciences. He's the one who got both of his BS and his MS from Beijing University, or is it Peking or Beijing?
Peking University.
They go with the old school, huh?
That's right. Yeah, they go with
like
the old
Peking
school.
duck.
Mhm.
Okay, and then he got his PhD in Georgia, the University of Georgia. Then he spent some time teaching at Georgia State University. So shout out to those in Atlanta in this room. Anybody? Anybody? Okay. Anybody from Dr. Yin's class?
A few.
Woo! Okay, there you go. Okay, and so then he came to the Better Coast in 2003. His area that I thought was kind of cool was hydroclimatology, which is also known as the study of the influence of climate upon the waters of the land. And in his Cultivate LLC, he teaches natural disasters. So, Dr. Yin.
Hi, everyone. I think I will tell the story how I ended up as a physical geographer. Back then, during the Cultural Revolution, for those of you who know a little bit history about modern China, I was sent to the countryside to be re-educated by farmers because Chairman Mao said that because you've learned so many things that are not really useful in the real world, you should be re-educated after graduation from high school. So I was working in the, on a farm in the outside of Beijing, And then we got the news that we can take the college entrance exam. So in China, they used to run these college entrance exam as a, for the entire nation. All the high school, graduates will take that exam for the year. If you got lucky or if you do well, then you get admitted to the university. But then when I was still working, that was the first time after the Cultural Revolution with a hiatus of 12 years of these college entrance exams. So I was just lucky that I was able to attend this exam with no idea about how well I was going to do, because we didn't learn well during the Cultural Revolution, and then after that we spent 2 years doing hard labor, on the farm. But then, fortunately, after the test, after the exam, I felt pretty good about my performance, but we didn't know the grades at the time. And then the rule in China was that before you know the grade, well, in Beijing at least, you had to decide what field you're going to major in. So you have 3 choices. And I had to work with my father because I didn't know anything about academic fields at the time. And then we looked around, and then we said, maybe we want to pick a good university. So we settled on Peking University, one of the best in China, actually. And then we said that, maybe we shouldn't be too confident about myself. So we say, maybe we should choose a relatively cool field. It's a field that's not very hot, not very many people wants to be. And back then, in science, actually, it's physics, mathematics, and then chemistry, not even biology. It's really, physics is one of the hottest fields back then in China for college students. So I said that, we couldn't do that. We had to stay away from it. So we looked at this field called physical geography with a hyphen saying environmental protection. So we settled on that one, and that's pretty much it. After that, I got admitted to Peking University because that was my first choice. And then after graduation, I got my master's still in physical geography. Then I went on to University of Georgia to get my PhD there, and then I started teaching again, still in Georgia. So that's my story. Pretty much just by pure luck that I ended up as a physical geographer, and one of the fields inside the geography is actually climatology. So that's how I got to my sort of title of a hydroclimatologist.
And ahead of your time. Like, I don't know what you and your father were drinking, but that was not even like a thing.
No, that's true, yeah.
That's craziness. That's really local. I mean, what if your father said, I want you to be a mathematician or a physicist?
Well, actually, the second choice was mathematical geology.
Oh, okay.
So, I was there.
I think it's cool too that you actually like your field. You picked it, but then you liked it, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, I think, yeah. That actually can be traced way back. When I was little, I got to this collection of books called 100,000 Whys. Because as a kid, you always ask why. When you're told that you should not touch that, the immediate response is a why. I think my grandmother must be fed up with so many whys. She got me this collection of books. It's 100,000 Whys. And I was really reading it through, and I liked all things about earth science, basically.
That's nuts. And I'm sure they wanted you to go to the States. Why? Because you didn't have to ask anymore.
Yeah.
Okay, we're going to launch this poll and ask a question, a follow-up random one to Dr. Yin, okay, who randomly chose another gambling major. maybe these aren't really awesome questions, but if somebody else has one that is on the tip of their tongue, like I could ask my student, but then my student will be all sad that I'm putting them on the spot. Okay, poll is closing in 5 seconds. 5 and 4 and 3 and 2. And you know what? Are you surprised? Craziest story from college.
I don't know. I don't think I had anything crazy. But there was this one thing when I was in college. There was a soccer game between the Chinese national team and Hong Kong. And the China team lost. Lost by 1 goal, but still the students was so mad that we lit up pretty much everything and threw off the window of our dorm. And that was pretty crazy at the time because China then was so much tightly controlled. Everybody was saying that we were getting expelled because of what we did, but we didn't.
And there was no liquor involved, I'm assuming, when you were burning.
That's true. There was no liquor involved.
Or he would admit to.
And the brooms and everything out of the window.
Yeah, that is really crazy. Thank you, Dr. Yin. I'm gonna give you, yeah, this is awesome. Okay, all right. Fourth up is Dr. Brad Malikian from the English department. He's our associate professor, and he got his BA from, of all places, USD. Not only did he get his BA in English at USD, he got his wife as well, but that's another story for another time probably. That's his high school or college sweetheart, right? His MFA from USC, he was a Trojan. He's been a member of the English department since 2008. He's a former editor of Surf magazine, and he teaches nature quests. I see May, I saw May's name and she's the, anyway, so take it away, Dr. Malikian.
Oh, thank you so much. Yeah. I've learned so much tonight. First of all, amazing. I never knew that Ryan worked in prisons, and I've known Ryan or Dr. McGorty for 5 years, and I would not have thought that at all. This is wonderful. But yeah, I was thinking about this today, like what would I talk about and my story and whatever that means. And you know, I'm the son of both my parents, neither went to college after high school. My dad enlisted in the Army right when he got out of high school, and he became a cop, and he did that for 35 years. And my mom, you know, she didn't go to college after high school, and then she became a court reporter. And so when I came to USD, that was a real culture shock for me. I had actually, my dad had encouraged me to follow in his footsteps in the military, and so I had gotten a Marine Corps scholarship to go to USD. And at the last minute, like a couple months beforehand, I froze and I just said, I can't do this, you know? And so luckily I got an academic scholarship to come to USD. But when I got there, I was really shocked by the amount of money that my peers had, because I was raised in LA without very much money. And, you know, we did fine, but it wasn't, you know, I found USD to be a really moneyed school, and that was difficult for me. And so I had to work while I was at school. And so I worked at the Home Depot on Balboa and Genesee on the night shift. So I would work from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. I drove the forklift in the outside garden. So I would take the pallets down from the top and pull them down to the bottom and restock everything, you know, and I would do that from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. And then I would go to school during the day. And there was a guy that I worked with there, and I saw a lot of dignity in that work, you know, and there's a guy that I worked with there, and he had a young family, and he would work at the Home Depot until 6 a.m. and then he would get off, and at I think it was like 8 a.m. he would go work at the car wash on 52 and Convoy at the Shell station there, and he would wash the cars, and then he'd be back at the Home Depot at 10 p.m. that night, you know. And I remember we would have a lunch break together at like 2 a.m. and we're sitting there eating, and it was my senior year, and he knew I was at USD, and he said, you know, what are you going to do? Like, where are you going to go teach? You know, and I said, oh, I don't want to teach high school. You know, it's just not for me. And he looked at me and he was like, you don't want to do this for the rest of your life. He's like, I sleep 2 hours a day and I can barely feed my family and all this kind of stuff. And so I went to the counseling center at USD, and I said, okay, I need it, because what's an English major going to do, And all I knew was that I could write, and I knew that I liked to read, and I didn't know what I was going to do. And so I said, I need a student teaching job. And so they got me set up, ironically, at the school that my kids are zoned to go to now. And so I went up to La Costa Canyon High School in Encinitas, and I lasted 2 hours. I was in this guy's classroom, and it was just amazing. God bless high school teachers, but it was nothing I could do, In that time, he sent like 5 kids to the principal's office, and I felt like a fraud, because I had been that kid in high school and all this kind of stuff. And so I walked into the office and I said, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. And the only thing I knew that I could do was write, and I knew that I loved surfing, So on my way home, I went surfing at Moonlight Beach in Encinitas, which is ironically, it's like a mile away from where I live now. And I was just sitting out there. And I was like, what am I going to do, man? I don't know. Because again, we didn't have any money. So the second I graduated, I needed to be self-supporting. And so I went home, and this was like Ryan, or like Dr. McGordy was saying, pretty early days in the internet. And I found the phone number for the managing editor of Surfer Magazine, and I cold called him. And he's a friend of mine today. His name is Ross Garrett. And I said, he picked up the phone. I couldn't believe he picked up the phone. I said, Mr. Garrett, if you give me 2 minutes, I'll tell you why I need to be your intern. And he goes, okay, clock's running. And I just gave him my little spiel. And he said, okay, you can start on Tuesday. And I went up there, and I did all the worst things, I cleaned stuff. I remember I took his mortgage to the bank for him, all this kind of stuff. But within a year, I had his job. He went on to, he decided to go back to law school, and I had his job. So I was 23, and I was the editor of Surfer Magazine. And my career kind of went from there, and I was able to write for other magazines, and that grew and that grew. And then all of a sudden USD called me back, and I was too dumb to know. My old professor, it turned out Sister Mary Hutz had become the chair of the English department. And I didn't realize that when she wanted to have lunch that she was interviewing me. And so for an adjunct position. And so we talked, and she's asked me what books I like and all this kind of stuff. And then at the end, she said, well, do you want to teach here? And that started, and one thing led to another. And then I got the tenure track job. But I guess if there's any point to that story, as an English professor, always looking for the point of things, is that just those were the instances that I could think of where following my gut really led me. There was just a voice inside me that led me to where I am today. I think that's my story.
Well, I have 2 things though. First of all, shout out to your class. Anybody from Dr. Malekian's class?
Yeah.
Hey, and number 2, really brief before I do the poll. Why English? How did you know you were a good writer? You just took an English class and boom, you were good, or?
I don't know. I have many colleagues in the sciences here today, and none of it ever made sense to me, but I loved read, Joan Didion has this great line where she says, I'm a writer, by which I mean a person whose most absorbed hours are spent arranging sentences on a piece of paper. And that to me always made sense, so I guess that's my answer.
Awesome. All right, I am repolling, and let's get a little creative, people. All right, what do you want to hear, or should we just keep it, status quo? Okay. Wow, there's a lot of people who are polling in this one, and I'm going to end it because it's close, right? They want to know the person, okay, share results. The person that you had the biggest crush on in college.
Yeah, so Dr. Chun sort of spoiled the lead on this one, but I had this class, again, with Sister Mary Hutz. I have a colleague who tells me that everything good in my life was given to me by Sister Mary Hutz in the English department. And we had a class at the time you had to take in the English department. It was called Practical Criticism. And so I showed up to this class, and there were 9 people, and 7 of them were women. And I sat next to this girl, and I was doing this move at the time where I was going to write a novel, and I carried it into class. This was my move. I carried it and I put it on the desk, right in front of me. And so then she, my now wife asked me, what's that? And I go, oh, that's my novel, and God forbid anybody these days find that stack of papers, because it's an awful mess of word soup. But I met my wife in Sister Hudson's class, and we started dating my junior year of college, and we just never stopped. And so actually just last week on the 10th of September, we celebrated 15 years of marriage. And you might have seen the young man with the Lakers shirt come in, and I've got a 12-year-old son and a 10-year-old daughter, and things are good. Yeah.
Wow, keeping it real in San Diego. Thank you, Dr. Malekian. Great. Wow, happy anniversary. Yeah, I agree, May. Okay, finally, of our 5, we're going to end with Dr. Mayer. Maybe I'll give a little snippet because we'll have a little extra time in what is not a place for a female voice too. But anyway, Dr. Michael Mayer from Bio. He's actually the former chair of the biology department, so I heard. He's got a bachelor and a master's from Humboldt State, famous or infamous Humboldt State, and his PhD from Pullman, Washington State University. I read that the Mayer Lab wrapped up work involving a group of the cola cactus species of the local Anza Borrego Desert, and his class was the first to officially welcome Cactus Jack's Jack. So before I say, I gotta recognize the class. Yay, Dr. Mayer's class. Anybody here? Are you here? Okay. I'd just like to share what his class did for our Cactus Jack so far. There he is, right? Just have to share that. Okay. Dr. Mayer, take it away. Thank you so much.
Well, thanks, Leva. Hi, everybody. I'm going to echo some of the themes that some of our other professors have already shared. But I'll start my story with high school. High school, I enjoyed biology, but I did not have a good foundation in other sciences like math, chemistry, and physics. So I was scared of those sciences, and I kind of gave up on biology for a while. I went into community college, and I took all those aptitude tests. I took them, and I tried to figure out what I was supposed to do with my life. And I think the 2 big things was either become a nurse or become a bricklayer, a mason, something like that. And anyway, I kept going, I kept chugging through these classes, and I took a botany class. And I thought, well, I like this. This is fun. This is great. I took another botany class, and I go, wow, I think I could do this. So this was at a community college in the LA area. And so I decided I'm going to study plants. And there were like 2 places in California where you could actually get a bachelor's degree in botany. And one of those places was Humboldt. And the other was Cal Poly Pomona. And I thought, I don't want to go to Cal Poly Pomona. But I took a trip up to Humboldt, and I was transfixed. I fell in love with the North Coast. It's just an awesome place. So anyway, I go and I'm going to study botany. I didn't know what I was going to do with it, folks. I just thought this is fun and I want to study it. So one of the themes that's already been evolving is follow your gut, follow your heart. And so that's what I did. I finished my bachelor's degree, but I loved being there so much and I was having a good time. So I stayed on for my master's degree. Okay, so I got my taste in research, and that was great. And that was interesting, and I enjoyed it. And I still didn't know what I was going to do with this botany stuff. And through that, I met some people up at Washington State University who said, oh, if you ever consider doing a PhD, you should look us up. And I thought, me do a PhD in science? I thought, well, if they think I could do it, maybe I could. So I went ahead and went for it. And I just had a great time. I've always been, a little bit shy about things. You might not know it now, but I was always just a little bit, insecure in my background and my aptitude, but I just kind of went for it. If those people they're internationally famous people who study the evolution of plants. If they believed in me, I thought, okay, I can do this. It took me about till midway through my PhD to where I thought, well, maybe I could do something with this. Up to that point, I have to say also that after I transferred to Humboldt, I pretty quickly figured out a way to have part-time jobs, and at a state university, it's not too expensive. And then some of you may know as well that going to graduate school is not a lot like the health sciences, where you still have to pay a lot of money to go to school. You can get TA positions and RA positions. And so with very little outside support, I went without debt through all my graduate years. So, and then, I finished up at Washington State. And at that point, I realized that there were these kinds of colleges in the country, liberal arts universities, that had an emphasis on teaching, but also allowed a strong emphasis on scholarship and research. So it was a good blend. I interviewed at USD, and the rest is history. So, you kind of go with your heart, follow your gut, and something will work out. That's my story.
That's awesome. It's kind of like Aladdin. Like, it's a whole new world, right? And you don't have to have a green thumb to be a botanist, do you?
No. In fact, I'm not great at raising plants. I actually kill them, get their DNA out, and then figure out how they're all related to each other. It's more like, crime scene investigations.
Oh, CSI botanist.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. We're going to relaunch a polling, and we're going to ask Dr. Mayer a question to follow up with his story. That is awesome. Okay, it looks like this one's going really quick. Oh, and very different too. Dr. Mayer, do you know what they're going to ask you? I'm going to stop it. I got 69. Ooh, here we go. Okay. Share my results. If you did not become a professor or botanist, what would you have done?
My answer was going to become a forest ranger, be one of those people in national parks that take people on hikes and tell them about nature and stuff. So I guess that's not strictly devoted to botany. So can I get away with that?
I mean, you could have worked at Home Depot and did the plant section. Brad with the flats and the.
When I was a kid, up to my teenage years, I thought it would be nothing better than to work at Disneyland and work on the props and behind the scenes stuff. So I really like that kind of thing too. So there you go.
Wow, thank you very much. That was awesome. So we heard 5 stories with this theme that I've been thinking about, which is connect with your gut, with curiosity, with, trust in the around surrounding you. Wait, that was poor English. And just,
Dr. Chun?
yeah.
Sorry. Hannah Johnson shared that her aunt went to Humboldt and studied forestry.
And there's the connection right there, Hannah. You want to ask Dr. Mayer a question?
Oh, I just thought it was really awesome. Like, I know he said that he thought he wanted to be like a nature guide for a little bit. So I was like, oh, my aunt did that for a little while.
Oh yeah, I knew a lot of forestry people at Humboldt. Yeah, it was such a great place. I'm sure your aunt loved it. Most people love it. Yeah.
Yeah, she totally loved it. She talks about it all the time still.
That's great. Dr. Ma, thanks for flagging that. We just think it's really important to continue that curiosity. I mean, to me, it's really funny because I never took physics. I got a D in English. I got a D in geography, and then honestly, twice an F in plants. So, I'm in communication, and just really briefly, because we need a female representation before we open it up for any kind of quick questions. I actually went to San Francisco State, and the only reason why I was excited about going is because I wanted to be in the media. Like I wanted to be in front of TV. And the only reason why I wanted to be in front of TV is because in my high school, they were having this dance off. And I went to Galileo, this, really poor school, but that's another story. And they captured me dancing, like this Chinese girl dancing. And then the guy comes up to me and says, "You're so photogenic." And I'm like, oh yeah, I could be behind the camera. So I got excited. I went to San Francisco State. And then I said, I want to be in media. And then I got, no thank you. I got rejected. I'm like, what? I was working for a radio station. I'm photogenic. And they denied me. So then I tried for anthropology, and then I quit that. Then I want to be a counselor. So then I go, whoa, okay, I'll do counseling. And then I worked at these really weird places like Planned Parenthood, and like, okay, this is not for me. I'm way too immature for this. So then senior year, my 4th year, I was in ethnic studies. I was 6 short units from the minor. And then I said, you know what? I think I want communication. Like, who does that? So I ended up spending 6 years at San Francisco State to make a decision on what I wanted to do. And it has nothing to do with being in front of a camera. It has nothing to do with what I thought I would do. But I'll tell you what, I intersected creative writing, I intersected culture, and I intersected, some of my psychology stuff to get where I was. And the craziest story I did was I went to China for a semester in Xi'an. Okay, Dr. Yin, Xi'an, this is back in 87. No one went to China. Fell in love, another story. But the craziest thing was that summer, the guy I fell in love with on my program went to Cal State Northridge, and he was going to go travel off. So then it's June and he's not back home. So I'm like, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to buy a ticket. Bought a ticket to Nepal because that was the last place I knew he was. No phone, internet, anything. And I went without knowing if he was going to be there. So, any questions you have for the group?
Was he there?
Can't tell you that story. You gotta leave him hanging. No, he was there. The story is like that night before I left, I got a phone call because his mother gave me money from the bank to contact him. So the only way to contact him was through the bank. So I called up the bank and said, if he happens to pick up the money, tell him that Li Chung is going to be in Nepal. And he happened to be there. And he called me right before I left, 5 hours before my flight. I know. That's a true crazy story. Flying to Nepal with no notion of where this person's going to be. Anyway. Does anybody, what, May?
That sounds like a K-drama to me.
You know it, because I wrote it. Sometimes in life, you never know. And that's what Dr. Carmona, that's what Dr. Yin, Dr. Malekian, Dr. Mayer, and Dr. McGordy have said. You never know where your life is going to take you. For all your great plans, as long as you're driven by your own curiosity, I think that's actually really important because you never know what's going to happen unless you give it a shot, right? Wouldn't you agree, Dr. Chen? And Dr. Ma? Right. Okay. Well, this has been our first successful, I think, LLC hour. Any feedback, any comments, questions? Thank you, Alicia. Yeah, she's clapping. Yay. Well, thank you to us. Our next hour will probably be on inclusion. We have a Dr. Peterson one coming up. Make sure you ask your professors about this information and look out for Cactus Jack Jacks. We have hit it. It's 7:51. I'll honor the 9 minutes so you can reflect on our stories, reflect on our craziness and regrets, and hopefully this has helped you kind of understand that we're also human too. We had college experiences, some PG and some not so much. Dr. McGordy, we can go flag him down later and ask him about that story he wasn't supposed to tell, and Dr. Carmona. But on behalf of the Cultivate faculty, we wanted to just say thank you for being here and listening to us. And we hope you have the rest of your week is just as amazing. So thank you. Thank you.
Yes, thanks everybody.
Thank you.